Welcome to Now and Zen, the podcast about microtonal and Zen harmonic music, both national and international, foreign and domestic, past, present and future, for JI purists, computer geeks, alternative guitarists and academic aficionados of all ages from 8 to 81/64. I'm Sevish.
And I'm Stephen Weigel.
And this is Now and Zen. Today we're joined by Tolgahan Çoglu, a classical guitarist who also designed the adjustable microtonal guitar. So, Tolgahan, it looks like you have some interesting ventures happening at the moment. What are you working on these days?
Oh, it's a very hard question. Lots of stuff, of course, but let me try to say my priorities. In terms of the guitar, I'm working on 3 designs, or let's say 3 things. Okay, one is to have my fretboard available in a reasonable price to the world.
Ooh.
So, and we are close. I can say that we are close. I think in 5 or 6 months, I can start sending a catalog and say that, okay, this is for classical guitar, adjustable microtonal fretboard, and this is for electric guitars, complete neck. So it can be, attached. The second one is the automatic microtonal guitar design that I've been working on for 3 years. So my dream is pressing a button, say, okay, in A, 5 limit just intonation, or let's say in B flat, 7 limit just intonation. And, you will enter the presets and frets adjust themselves automatically. And the last one is Lego microtonal guitar that my son, my 8-year-old son, Atlas, gave me the idea. And it's going well. It's now more than a toy. So it might really work to play makam music. So these are the 3 concentration areas regarding the production of a microtonal guitar, let's say. Regarding the artistic way, now, it's the concert season, the spring, March, April, May. I have lots of concerts coming on. So I'm trying to manage to play all these different, because I don't have a specific duo. I have many combinations. For example, next week in Istanbul, I'm going to play with ney. Ney is a flute, but mostly used in Sufi music. You might know it from Rumi. And so we have a concert with ney and microtonal guitar. Then a week later, we will be in Belgium to play with bağlama, this folk-necked lute, and microtonal guitar. Anyway, so I have upcoming concerts. And what can I say?
I also heard about a microtonal guitar competition.
Yeah, that's so exciting because I started the microtonal guitar competition in 2016. And the first year was okay. We got 10 arrangements. And okay, it was the introduction. It was the beginning. But then the second one, I was so surprised because the level difference, the quality difference of the arrangements, the idiomatic pieces for the guitar. And okay, the first place goes to a Turkish guitarist for playing Turkish music. Second one was my friend Jakub from Germany, but his parents are from Lebanon and Germany. So he played an Iraqi piece. And the third place goes to an Iranian composer. And then honorary mention goes to an Israeli guitarist who played a Jewish, traditional Iraqi Jewish melody. So, after the second competition, because, I don't believe in competitions as a musician. For me, they are not logical, like we are doing art. So how can you make a competition out of it? So, but microtonal guitar competition is different. So it is just to enrich the repertoire. And even in the first 2 competitions, I didn't have any awards. So it was just sharing the videos. So it's a competition theoretically, but in practice, I think it's more like enriching the repertoire, trying to create art, trying to motivate people. And I'm sending free frets around the world. First year I sent hundreds, and second year maybe over 300. And this year I think I sent over 400 small frets. So maybe in total it's now 1,000 frets. And I'm not counting the frets that I give to my friends or colleagues or whatever, whoever visits me in Istanbul. So maybe in the last 5 years, I give 1,500 frets to anyone who wants. So that's great because that's the only...
I wouldn't mind some.
Yeah, send me your address. Send me your postal address because I'm going to post some frets in a few days. So I will also post to you. Do you play guitar, Sevish?
I don't play guitar, no. I actually studied guitar for about 2 years when I was in school, but I've forgot it all. I can't play a single lick.
Okay, so I'm not going to send you anything.
No. But how does this work then? These frets that you send, they're like very small frets that you can stick onto your...
They are applicable to 85 or 90% of classical guitars because I tried them on many classical guitars and very few of them doesn't work. So these are, I ordered standard sized frets from Steve Mac, this giant, company. So then I gave them to my luthier and he or she files the bottom parts, and we cut them into, mostly for classical guitar, I prefer 9 millimeters or 1 centimeter. It depends. And then with the double-sided tape, it really works.
That's so cool. So you don't need a special fretboard. Basically, if you have the frets, you can stick them in your guitars. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, for example, just imagine you have a fretless guitar.
Yeah.
And you have hundreds small frets.
Yeah.
You can turn it into 7 limit just intonation, or you can turn it into quarter comma mean tone, or Pythagorean tuning, or any tuning, even fretless. But of course, the drawback is you are taping it, so sometimes they are stable, but I don't recommend playing in a concert.
Right.
So it's still risky, for video recording, for studio recording, for home practicing, it's perfect. It really works. But for concerts, I think it's risky. For the concerts, I of course recommend adjustable microtonal guitar or interchangeable fretboards or some other types of the microtonal guitars. But these taped frets really work for recording yourself, videos, studio recording, and practicing. But they are very practical. Thanks to these frets, I found the microtonal guitar department in Istanbul. I start teaching. I have many students from middle school to PhD. I have microtonal guitar students. So things get really easy for the microtonal guitars.
Well, yeah. So you have microtonal guitar students. Do they each have fretless guitars and then they use your frets to play things?
No. I'm a professor at Istanbul Technical University, Turkish Music State Conservatory, and also we have a graduate program called Center for Advanced Studies in Music. By the way, this center is 100% English. So from this podcast, I can announce that anyone who wants to study microtonal guitar, different tunings, microtonal music theory with me can join our master's or PhD programs in Istanbul in this 100% English program. But also at the Turkish Music Conservatory, we got middle school, high school, and undergraduate. And here I only teach Turkish makam music. And in order to do this, I only need the student's guitar. So, and I give him or her the small frets. We tape in the lesson in 10 seconds. So we tape what we need, and then we practice the songs. Even in the student recitals, we use their guitars. So it's a student recital. So they play one or two pieces. They can use these tape frets, or I borrow my guitars. I have 3 now adjustable in Istanbul with me. So this works. The tape frets works here.
That's fascinating. I saw that you have like a patent on these microtonal guitars. And of course, this microtonal guitar, the one that you use, is probably the most famous kind because you've got like 9 million views on a YouTube video, and you're the microtonal guitar channel. I mean, you're the guy.
Thank you. Ironically, the 9 million viewed video has the fixed fretted microtonal guitars.
Oh.
And the one that I showed, my adjustable one, has 600,000. So it's a big gap. So it's very ironic, no one understands the algorithms of YouTube, so it's very surprising.
Yeah.
I never expected that video to reach these levels, but somehow it happened. I don't know how and why. But if we talk about my adjustable microtonal guitar design, my main inspiration was René Lacotte's 1852 design in Paris. And you won't believe, but last summer, I had 1 hour with that guitar in a room alone.
Oh.
So I still can't believe this, but the creator of Musée de la Musique, Music Museum in Paris, the creators somehow they give me the guitar for an hour. So I analyzed the world's first movable fretted microtonal guitar from 1852. And it's a very interesting one. It has very thick channels. It's frets are, of course, they can be moved in a very limited way. So he designed this guitar to fix the semitones. So his intention was also not to play just intonation like Perone Thompson in London 23 years before. Anyway, because I started the history of microtonal guitars in London in 1829 with an harmonic guitar with hundreds of holes on the fretboards. But then the second microtonal guitar is in Paris, this guitar, but the fret wires, the metallic fret wires, are installed in very large, maybe, how can I say, 3 or 4 centimeter long wooden blocks.
So they're a lot bigger and clunkier.
Yeah, very bigger. So you can just move them maybe 5 or 6 millimeters to the left or right.
Oh, yeah.
So it is, just to fix the semitones. It's like true temperament guitars, but of course, much better solution because true temperament guitars are fixed.
Right.
So if your strings get older, you're in trouble. But here, Lacote's solution is awesome. Anyway, but also it was very hard to move the frets because the frets are squeezed into the slots through this wine cork. There is the layer of wine cork underneath. So it was very hard to move the frets. I couldn't move them. So they were, but of course it's 150, maybe 67 years later, I touched the guitar. But anyway, so my main inspiration was that Lacote guitar and also Walter Vogt's guitar in 1985. But now I understand that Vogt has his inspiration from Lacote, of course, in the first hand, and also Daniel Friedrich, 1976. Have you watched Guitar Salon International's videos with John Schneider?
I've seen like a few videos with John Schneider. I've seen that John Schneider uses the adjustable frets and that he's, always at Microfest and does Harry Parch stuff. And
yeah, but the great thing is this Guitar Salon International YouTube channel is, I think, maybe the most popular classical guitar channel now in the world. And for 5 or 6 episodes, they invited John Schneider and Mark Gergich. And John played 1976 made Daniel Friedrich adjustable microtonal guitar. He called this guitar mean tone guitar.
Ah.
And yes, and the funny thing is, it's very surprising, but I told John Schneider that this guitar exists. So I was shocked because, my main inspiration for my guitar was the contemporary guitar book of Schneider, the first edition that's been printed in 1984.
Oh, yes.
So my theory teacher, master theory teacher, Michael Ellison, gave me that book. And I went nuts and, I read the book and I read it several times. So, and in that book, you have a brief history of microtonal guitars. And in the second edition, which is now a great microtonal music book also, he didn't include Friedrich. And then someone sent me Friedrich's design, and I wrote it to John. John, I'm sure you know this guitar, but you didn't include this in your book. And he says, oh no, I didn't. And in a few months, he found the guitar, and he played, and he recorded. So it's amazing. So the podcast followers can watch these videos in Guitar Salon International. John Schneider playing some pieces, and Mark Gergich plays some Renaissance tunes.
Yes, I loved Mock's little promo Microtonal where he had the black and white. I thought that was great.
Amazing.
Yeah. He's a really good guitar player. I also listen to Microtonal Duo and Atlas sometimes. I really liked the songs on there.
Thank you.
Especially the ones that have the Macam scale where, some of the notes sound a little bit in between the ones of 12-tone equal temperament, but you hold them on chords a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I like what that does to my ear.
Sure.
Do most of those songs come from folk tunes? or composers? Because I know, well, you started the microtonal guitar competition in 2016. I was actually going to ask you that, but then you said that. So where did you get all of the microtonal songs for those CDs? Did you write some of them, or?
Yeah, thank you. So when I had my guitar, I designed this in 2008, and I get it from the luthier in Istanbul in 2009. His name is Ekrem Özkarpat, and he did a great job. Then I said, okay, but what should I play? And the only thing that I found was John Schneider's repertoire. So some pieces of Lou Harrison, some pieces of John himself. It was so scarce. So then I decided, okay, this guitar works, so I have to do something. So I divided my life into two parts. So the first part, okay, like Andres Segovia, I have to create a repertoire from great composers. Since then, I think I've reached around 40 composers. So almost I got more than 40 pieces composed by various composers all across the globe and in various microtonality. So many quarter tone pieces, many just intonation pieces.
Oh, yeah.
19 tone.
Like 19 tone equal temperament or 19 unequal notes?
This is interesting. 19 note, just intonation.
Yeah, that's cool.
Casey Hale. Casey,
Yeah.
we met in Bristol. Yes, so then many makam-based music, one gamelan music, 128 tuning by Johnny Reinhardt.
Oh my, 128 on the microtonal guitar? You didn't have 128 frets, right? You did a subset.
Yeah, but I use all 128. So for Johnny,
oh my God,
this is a great demonstration because he gave me the list of 128 cents, different cents.
Like cent
values,
ratios. Yeah.
And then I adjust how many frets do I have on my 8th string. Let me see. 19 times 8. 152 frets. So that means I can adjust 128 to the values that he wants and double 24 of them in addition.
Oh, so what you were doing is in order to get 128 values, you didn't have to have that on every string. You could spread out some of the notes along the different strings.
I spread out the first 128 harmonics in a harmonic series across my fretboard. And then I still had some spaces, 24 more, and I doubled some. And then Johnny composed a song in this tuning. It's on YouTube. Anyway, to sum up, in this 11 years, thanks to these composers, I experienced great about microtonality in various tunings. In addition, I played some Renaissance and Baroque pieces in irregular vowel temperaments and also mean tone temperaments. And in addition, I decided to arrange the music of where I live, the makam music of Anatolian folk music,
yes,
Asia Minor folk music, and Ottoman Turkish traditional makam music, which has a huge repertoire. It's like classical Indian music. So I'm so lucky because I live in Istanbul. This is where you have two types of big traditional music. One is the folk music, which is multicultural. So, this is the bridge between Asia and Europe and North Africa. So Istanbul was the capital city of Roman Empire in 300 years. So 1,700 years ago, this was the capital city. So it has a very long history. So the music is very diverse. Anyway, this Anatolian folk music tradition and Ottoman Turkish urban traditional music has thousands of music. So I feel like, okay, I have to concentrate and create a repertoire for the guitar because there are thousands of guitarists in Turkey. So they have to play their own music, right? Because up to now, no one plays. Okay, if you have a fretless guitar, you can play your music, right? But fretless guitar is something else. It's mostly monophonic, no sustain. Sustain is very limited.
Right.
So it's a new instrument. I love that instrument. But microtonal guitar is a subset of the classical guitar, or So adjustable microtonal guitar is not a new instrument. It's electric guitar, but with microtones. Acoustic steel string or nylon string acoustic guitar with microtones. So no change in the timbre.
So with the frets, it'll still work with electric guitars, the adjustable frets. It'll work
Yes.
with any kind of guitar, really.
The only drawback for the electric guitars, you can't bend. So, but still, many electric guitarists wants to get my guitar design because okay, you don't have to bend for thousands of music. So, for example, you want to play in just intonation. So why do you bend? You just adjust your frets and compose a huge piece for electric guitar or steel string acoustic guitar. So, especially the microtonal community is aware of it. That's why they demand my design a lot, and that's why I've been working recently a lot to make it more cheaper, make it more available for the community. Anyway, I hope I will do it. So these three sides, if I am correct, one is commissioning pieces.
Yes.
One is playing Renaissance, Baroque in the tunings of those eras. And one is playing microtonal folk music, like not only Turkish, or it can be also Arabic, it can also be gamelan or Indian. So these three areas I devoted my 11 years.
Yeah, it sounds like a very worthwhile thing to do because you've been able to expand a repertoire that was previously very limited.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's immense value in doing that. And now the classical guitar can be used to represent so many more kinds of music that have already been there. So yeah, it's great work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much,
cool.
Sevish.
And it's a good opportunity for composers to compose in microtones. Here, Tolgahan, he wants to play microtonal music and he just said the repertoire was scarce. So this is a good opportunity for you to jump on it if you're a composer and you're listening to this.
I have to jump in now
Yes.
because there is one thing. In my first 7 or 8 years, I just welcomed any piece, and then things get more complicated in my life.
Right.
I become vice director of the Turkish Music Conservatory recently. So unfortunately, many unnecessary administrative stuff, because our conservatory is the first and the biggest Turkish music conservatory in the world. So we have 1,000 students and 120 professors. And I am responsible for them. So, unfortunately, but that's how it works in Istanbul, how the academic career works. You can't escape. Anyway, so in the last years, my objective is trying to have many PhD, masters, undergraduate students, because recently, when a composer contacted me, or I started getting afraid of contacting composers, because the worst thing, the thing that I hate is a composer composes for me and I recorded it a year later, and because of the hectic life. And because this starts happening in my last years, so, and I don't want to feel ashamed. So my objective is now having many students. It's like I'm trying to operate a microtonal music department or microtonal guitar department. Also, this is my dream, because just imagine you have a microtonal guitar department like the way Alois Haba had in Czech Republic in 1920s.
Yes.
He founded the world's first microtonal music department in 1920s for 20 years, but then it was closed. Anyway, but my objective is try to create this atmosphere in Istanbul. So, for example, composers compose in just intonation. So I give it to some students who is interested in just intonation. But then equal tempered microtonality, the EDOs, some students are working more on that. So some composers I collaborated, so they recorded these. So I would like to work as a factory in microtonal music, but of course, concentrated mainly on microtonal guitar. I wish, or I hope, it can be like in any type, like maybe Sevish comes and teach us in the EDOs and
Yeah.
teach composition in Istanbul, or you come here. So it's a dream, but these are big funding projects, which is really hard in today's economic world.
Yes.
But in the utopic world, my dream is to have a microtonal guitar center or some department with branches in just intonation, EDOs, Renaissance Baroque tunings, Makam music, Indian music, gamelan music. So there are, the lessons, courses are based on these theories, practices, concerts, recordings. Composers keep composing for these all genres that they are interested in. So I think this must be done in one period of in the future. I am now starting. Look, I found a microtonal guitar department here in Istanbul. So now anyone is welcome, as I said at the beginning. So and we can do this here in Istanbul, but I hope I will get it a bit bigger and find more funding for festivals, for organizations, and I hope in the centers like in London, in the US, maybe in Boston, we will have similar microtonal music research centers. So, then it will boom up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think speaking from the perspective of somebody who lives in the US, I think here we have a lot of microtonal enthusiasts on the coasts and in big cities. It's like New York and California, especially, like, New York having Johnny Reinhardt and California having John Schneider and lots of people who make their own instruments and or use things that are similar to the microtonal guitar.
Also in Boston, 2 years ago, I came to New England Conservatory, and I was amazed.
Yeah.
Because, Jim Dalton, Julia Burns,
Yes.
my friend Mehmet Ali Sanlıkol. So I found Boston really amazing.
Yes.
Also, I've been to New York many times. So Boston and New York, for me, they are the microtonal music havens. Unfortunately, I haven't been to California yet, but I know that Los Angeles or John Schneider's Microfest venues is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
When I lived in the UK for a year, I visited 12 universities, but unfortunately, I was a bit disappointed because Boston, New York, for me, was much more enthusiastic about microtonal music. But in the UK, maybe Savish can correct me, but okay, I lived there for a year, but it was a bit conservative. I found a bit the music circles a bit conservative. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I presented my lecture recital at the University of Cambridge, Goldsmiths, Glasgow, Surrey, University of Bristol in 12 centers. Okay, everyone is interested in the concept, but somehow it's just the interests. For example, when I tell my ideas about founding the microtonal music center or research centers, departments, at that point I found it a bit conservative, a bit more 12-tone equal temperament based. But I want to hear Savish's opinions about this.
Well, yeah, I actually wouldn't know too much about the kind of academic side of it because I'm really outside of that. It doesn't surprise me, though. It doesn't surprise me.
Right.
I would really like. What kind of reactions did you get when you were talking about this kind of music?
It's amazing because I played microtonal guitar. I watched the videos. I talk about all the different genres of microtonal music. So it's of course very positive, but still regarding the education, for example, microtonal music theory classes in a semester or tunings in Renaissance Baroque, mean-tone temperaments. The educational level, I think, is lacking. For example, I found Boston more. Julia Burns is teaching microtonal music ear training, and my colleague Mehmet Ali in New England, he's the head of a center, so he is teaching makam with jazz. So it's already in the curriculums of the education.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about the UK.
Yeah, we're really lacking. We really need to step up our game.
But I hope, as I said, there will be more departments, more research centers all over the world. And this is our responsibility. We have to do it.
Yeah,
For
we got to
example,
make it
Stephen,
happen.
Stephen, you have to do it at Ball State.
Well, yeah, I'm trying. I'm not at Ball State now, so I think I got...
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I applied for a job there, so maybe they'll have me back, but I don't know. I think that really is the key, is getting microtonal music somehow into the curriculum at all, and then making sure that people at least know that different numbers of notes are being used, because there were people at Ball State who thought that gamelan music was cool, but they didn't know that it was microtonal. So I think people should be understanding the reasons behind why things sound a certain way or don't sound a certain way, and that's something that you do so well, of course, because you have those videos where you have like the listening difference between Kernberger and Werkmeister and quarter common mean tone on the microtonal guitar, and I think those are really educational, and lots of people are interested in comparing those sorts of tunings. Do you have anything like that for Makam tunings? Because I was really interested in how you were talking about Kara Toprak and Sleep Drifter. For those of you who don't know, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's Sleep Drifter sounds exactly like Kara Toprak, which Tolgahan has played multiple times on the microtonal guitar. And you talked about how the Makam scale's notes were a little bit different from quarter tones, like a few cents, to the left or the right.
Yeah, 15 cents to the right.
15 cents to the right. That's interesting. So they sort of err on the high side, the quarter steps.
Yeah, I would like to tell about this story of King Gizzard because
yes,
it's really
please do.
Interesting. And as you mentioned in the earlier podcasts, thanks to King Gizzard, microtonality spreads all over the world in one youth generation.
Right.
So when they come up with this album, I was shocked because even the tonic is in F sharp.
Yeah.
And the tunes I've been playing are all in F sharp Hüseyni Makam. So it's really interesting, but it was obvious that they analyzed some of my videos and even tuned the electric guitars, tuned 3 of the guitars, the same way that I tuned, according to my colleague in Istanbul, Argentinian guitarist Ricardo Moyano, tunes the guitar from the 6th to the 1st, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, B, E.
Oh.
To play F sharp, Dorian-like Hüseyni Makam with flatter 2nd and 6th degrees, 35 cents flatter.
Yeah.
Anyway, they watch those videos. It's great. They convert or they design the fretting of their fretboards according to that tuning that Ricardo Moyano invented in 1992. So his tuning first played in 1992. Anyway, but then it's great. They also had a bass and they had this MIDI keyboard, and then their album is just sound like Anatolian rock. We have similar albums from 1970s.
Yeah.
But only these albums in 1970s were lacking microtonal guitars because there wasn't that concept in 1970s in Turkey. So it's great that an Australian psychedelic rock band came up with microtonal guitars and filled the gap that we had to do 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's always late
so
to the
it's
party.
amazing. It's amazing. I really love King Gizzard's music, by the way. And we become friends. They always have sold out concerts in Istanbul. So we met here. We go around the city. I take them to the music shop. So they got oud and some percussive instruments.
So you met King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Yeah, they are amazing guys.
Wow.
So we've been in touch. And I also really love their sounds. So it's great. It's great to have this band now in the microtonal music world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just the word microtonal becoming a household word, I think is really special because then people know that real musicians are doing it. Not that they weren't before, it's just that it is so hard to like convince people that yes, microtonal music is sort of all around you. It's just that there are a lot of challenges to playing it. And you've addressed those challenges really well with the guitar. So, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, wow.
Yeah. Regarding your first question, I am planning to do some maqam videos. So, because maqams are really interesting scales, but they are not only scales. They have melodic progressions. So you have to know the rules of melodic progressions.
Right.
Also, you have to know the rules of which maqam goes to which areas that they modulate, which microtonal tetrachords and pentachords they use. And some maqams have also a relationship with 5-limit just intonation. For example, Rast maqam, the third degree is 5/4.
Yes.
And seventh degree is major seventh is the fifth of that 5/4. So 5/4 times 3/2, 15/8.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15/8 ratio. If I'm not wrong, the major seventh.
That's correct, yeah.
Right.
It's good. So in some of our maqams, we have these just ratios. Even some 7 limits, some 11 limits. You can find some ratios. So I'm really interested. I'm trying to find a bridge between maqams and just intonation. And there are many different theories in maqams. So maybe I'm planning to do some videos about these theoretical differences. And also I would like to teach maqams to the world in a very simple way. So when I find time, I'm planning to do some videos about this issue.
Oh, that's fascinating. I think, well, I've read a few things on maqam. I really like Eric Ederer's book on it. You've probably heard of that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It seems like it's so hard to really explain maqam music in a simple way. Do you have any really novel ideas for approaching that, or?
I think, yes. What I'm trying to do is to simplify it at the maximum level. So my suggestion is, for example, let's say, okay, you have a maqam. First, you read its basic scale, its tetrachords, pentachords, and trichords. Okay, the areas that it can go, and its movements when the piece starts. Is it starting from the tonic or dominant tone or high tonic or secondary dominant tone? You have to know the direction. Then, once you know this, and once you know the values of the microtones that it uses, which I hope, provide, then the only thing that you have to do is to start play 10 most important pieces of the repertoire in each maqam. So once you play 10 classical, traditional pieces from 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 200 years ago, we have a list of these very classical, very important pieces of each maqam. So once you play these maqams, and by playing by exact microtones, and you know the directions of the melodic progression, I think you start learning maqam in a very elaborate way. So this is, I think, the thing that I recommend. And I hope I will do some videos to simplify in the future.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you have any recommendations on where to find representative traditional maqam music?
Do you know my book with Fernando Perez?
Oh, well, I've heard that name, but I'm not sure about the book.
Yeah, let me promote this, because
Oh, yay.
I think because I was lazy doing a video about this book. I think it's a bit been ignored. So anyway, I will show you. So this is, as far as I know, the first microtonal guitar methods or repertoire book published till today. It's called Microtonal Guitar for Standard Guitar with Added Frets. Volume 1, Turkish and Persian Traditional Music. So what we got, we wrote this book with Fernando Perez, my dear friend from Spain. So we have 10 Turkish maqam music examples and 10 Persian maqam music examples, all harmonized. And all written both in tablature and standard notation with cent deviations and with the arrowed flats and sharps.
Okay.
So, for example, if I put a flattened sharp sign, I always describe it at the beginning of the score that it's flattened by 35 cents. So this, because after this many different type of notations that I've been experiencing, I decided that the best way is arrowed sharps and flats, but with the condition that you have to indicate how much these arrows differ the notes in terms of cents.
Right.
If you do this, I can play anything that you want easily as a performer.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't use the Macam accidentals that are like all funny or like quarter sharps and quarter flats.
I only preserved reversed flats.
Okay.
Because it's very essential for Turkish Makam music.
Yes, absolutely.
But still, I'm a bit confused. So maybe in the next publications, I might even change that, because arrowed flats and sharps are a good way to notate. Anyway, so this book, and also we have these exercises like for the rasguedo patterns, thumb tremolos. So it's also in the sense like a method. So if the guitarists are listening to this podcast, they can get this book from Fernando Perez's website. We have an ebook version and also a published one. If they get the published one, we also send 10 free frets. So they can tape those frets and play these pieces.
Sounds like I need to buy that.
I hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a few. I wish I could have presented it to you, but unfortunately I have a few left. Anyway, but at the beginning of it, I also show how to tape the frets and where to.
Yes.
So for each song, you know where to tape the frets, and it's a good way to start playing Turkish and Persian makam music.
So this is a situation where you can probably can you play a lot of makam music if you have like a 12th and equal tempered guitar and then you take the extra frets and just stick them in the right places so that you have little different makam notes? Is that pretty doable or not really?
Yes. Yeah, it's real doable. So you can have your standard guitars, you add the frets to the locations that we showed, and then it's even some pieces are very easy. So my middle school students play the first two of the pieces after 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So, but then the last pieces that I wrote were for the concert recitals that I played in my concerts. So it's in all levels.
Well, that's fascinating. I'm really interested in how the tablature and the notation work, because for the composition competition, of course, I want to write something. I'm trying to have time. I might not, but I'm desperately wanting to write some more things for microtonal guitar. I have a 19-tone guitar, and I may be getting a 15 one, both equal tempered.
Ah, great.
Yeah, so I was wondering what you do for tablature, because you could have a different number of frets on each string because of the adjustable frets. So do you have the composer specify tuning and fret positions beforehand, or do you figure out the fret positions yourself from the tuning? And then, of course, the notation can be all cent deviation. You already mentioned that, so...
For tablature, we think about it, and we decided to, for example, if there's a microtone on the 4th fret of a string, I write 4, and I put the microtonal accidental to the left.
Oh.
So, yeah, that means that's you have to put your finger to the 4th fret, but to the microtone, not to the semitone. Because, but this is, of course, easy because this is a standard guitar with added frets. So when it is standard guitar with added frets, it's easier to have a tablature system. But when it is, just intonation guitar, let's see. My idea is, for tablature, I never experienced a just intonation piece, but sometimes people teased my videos like, oh, what about the tablature of this crazy messed up guitar? So maybe hundreds of comments I got it. And I always answer them, okay, here we go. I write, 1, so the 1st fret, which means it's a semitone. But then I write 3.5, okay, which means third fret, quarter tone, 3.5. So just imagine 3.5 means 50 cents. Then 4.65, okay, it's the fourth fret with 35 cents lower. Or even you can use, for example, 5.86, which is the just third.
Well, 3.86, right?
Yeah, but if you put 5.86, that's the fifth fret,
Right.
just major third for that fret.
Yes.
So that means 14 cents lower fifth fret.
Right.
So I'm talking about tablature. But anyway, this is the tablature idea for just intonation. But always you take semitones as a reference.
That's a pretty good way to do it. Yeah, I think that works.
Just an idea.
Yeah, there's a set theory calculator that I use that does the same thing. Like when you articulate notes in pitch class sets, you could say like, if I had C, D half sharp, you could say that would be like 0, 2.5 in pitch class sets. So yeah, there are other people doing that as well. So I think that's pretty well accepted kind of like sense.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's really good that I kind of know what to do now with the tablature, and the guitar competition is really exciting. So if you're listening to this podcast,
But the thing is, Stephen, sorry to interrupt, but it's limited to the arrangements. So unfortunately, I thought about to enlarge it for the compositions with microtonal guitar composition, but I was a bit afraid because what is gonna be the criteria to evaluate the winners? So I don't know. You compose 15 tone equal temperament, then we have 5 limit just intonation piece, then we have mean tone, then makam influenced. So I was a bit afraid. So how to evaluate the pieces? So then, okay, I said, okay, I'm gonna narrow the content. So I said, okay, arrangements of traditional microtonal music. So that means arrangements of makam music, Indian music, gamelan music, so or any traditional music from your area. I don't know.
So that's what the composition competition is limited to right now. Is that correct? The arrangements?
Yeah,
Okay.
It is not even a composition competition now. It's the arrangement. So
Okay.
you should have a melody to harmonize. But maybe if I had the courage, I think we have to have a second category. So one is arrangements and one is compositions.
Yes, I would be interested in both, but the second category, of course, is my favorite.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that can be done with microtonal guitar. What would you say the limit is for the number of frets that you can put in the microtonal guitar, like on one string? Because I know we've talked about this on the podcast with a lot of the other characters, like how many frets you can fit on one string in a line.
I see.
What's the most you've ever done?
Okay, let's think about the second fret, which is very wide. On my adjustable microtonal fretboard, the second fret is semitone.
Yeah.
I can put 5 more frets in between.
Okay.
If I put 5, is it 72 Edo? 16 cents apart.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, if it's 5. Yeah,
because you had 6
there are
notes because of that. Yeah.
6 intervals. So yeah, so I can convert it to 72, but of course it's really hard to play.
The frets get smaller as they get. Yeah.
Then yes, you have to omit some of them. But when you play makam music, for example, the second degree should have really sometimes at least 4 frets. So I generally do this.
Wow, that's a lot.
On my second degrees, I put 4 frets to imitate tambur, long neck tambur, because when you have 4 frets and when you have a glissando towards the tonic, it's like a fretless guitar.
Yeah.
So even on the fretted one, you have that fretless feeling. So that's good.
So that's why you would have a lot of the frets, is to make it sound more like a fretless guitar in certain circumstances. Would you ever need that for modulating between makams that are fairly distantly related?
Yes, I if it is a bit complicated makam, I insert more frets. on some degrees. So I have to arrange my fretboards before I play very carefully. So to modulate with the right ratios.
Do you ever create your own scales for the microtonal guitar, or do you mostly use traditional temperaments?
No, I've never created my own. Actually, because I feel like I have a mission to spread the word about microtonal guitar tunings and repertoires, I always put my priority to play the compositions and play the arrangements. So almost no experiments on my own. No time for it. But that's a good idea. Maybe I should stop at one moment and say, okay, for 3 months, no arrangements, no compositions from other composers. Just experiment what you want to do.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea. I think lots of people would like to hear that. And I know that I play in equal temperaments a lot, but I am always so captivated by work in different unequal temperaments, especially with what you do, since the fretboard looks so much more complicated. Equal temperaments are easy for guitar, so.
Yeah.
See, you two need to swap over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We will swap over.
Yeah.
So Aladdin Matthews piece that we will play the first movement today
Yes.
is really interesting. So it's in just intonation, mostly 5 limit, but at some circumstances it's 7 limits. In addition to the septimal tones, it uses some quarter tones between major third and minor thirds. So he also used additional tones. So it's really interesting because it's in 3 different modes. So the piece modulates into 3 different tones in just intonation. So, this is the biggest dilemma of just intonation. Okay, why are we using 12 tone equal temperament? Because you can't modulate. If you want to modulate, you need more keys, more frets. It makes things, harder. But Aladdin Matthews piece succeeded in that. So we arranged the fretboard in a way, each mode its own path, its own atlas on the fretboard. So we know that D mode has these frets, E mode has these frets, and also these frets are in common ratios with D and E modes, because he gave me an amazing graphic. So big lattice with colorful circles, colorful lines. And also he invented a great notation with diamonds, squares for the note heads, note stems. So for example, if it is diamonds, that means you are in E mode. If it is squares, you are in D mode. So each one is for the specific mode. And then these modes have some tones in common, but also they have their own tones in the 5 limit lattice, also in 7 limit lattice. So I think that piece is a unique piece, and I'm so happy that it's been published in the US. So we have a CD published by Cold Mountain Music. Aladdin Matthews, I think. So anyone wants to reach, they can get into Aladdin Matthews Cold Mountain Music website and get the CD.
Absolutely. So could we listen to a little bit of that music on the podcast and then talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it. What are the first impressions?
Oh, I could tell you my first impressions. When it switches between the two modes, you really get that shift in colors. What it reminds me of is when you're outside on a really hot day and the clouds are like, when you got the big fluffy clouds, and when one passes over the sun, your eyes have to adjust because it suddenly got darker or suddenly got lighter. I feel like my ears are doing the same thing when I listen to this, if that makes any sense. It's a very subjective impression of it.
It
But
does.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's beautiful. I think that the low writing really surprised me, like at the beginning, especially since people usually like to harmonize the harmonic series higher. It's also interesting how many of the intervals stuck out to me as sounding like quarter tones, like the neutral second sort of away from the tonic in the first mode, but apparently it was a 7-limit interval. And then most of the other 7-limit intervals I were hearing were locking in with like larger chords that were like major chords with an extra note. I thought it was really beautiful, and
It is,
I
yeah.
love the texture and sort of like valleys and peaks, where like the peak happens in the middle, and it also happens with like register and activity and how fast the guitar is playing. So it's really, really well done, really adventurous and really tasty and pleasant to listen to. So it's a great piece.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
One of my new favorite microtonal guitar pieces, I think.
Yeah, so you have to listen to the second and third movements.
Yes, will do. In fact, there's a CD, so I guess I'll be buying that too. Hopefully.
Did you have any other things to add about that piece?
I love Alaudin Matthews' art, his music, his compositions. Also, have you read his amazing book, Harmonic Experience?
I haven't actually. No.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's an amazing music theory book. I strongly recommend. And it has many microtonality issues in it.
It's cool.
So it was an honor for me. A composer like Alaudin Matthew composes for me this big piece with 3 movements. And it's a unique piece. It's hard to have this type of just intonation pieces for guitar repertoire. I think that's the first one I come across. Yeah, and it was a bit hard to play it. So because after the recording, we thought about playing this live at a concert, but I was always afraid.
Because it's a tough piece,
Yeah,
huh? Yeah.
Also because it's for 8-string microtonal guitar, and you also use 8 and 7th a lot. So which confuses me a lot with my right hand. So for example, you have chords with your thumb on 8th string, then your index 6th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, but then it suddenly shifts to 7th string, 5th. So all your right hand configuration changes drastically. So I'm not brave enough. I don't dare playing this live.
Yeah. I can imagine that would be pretty tough. So how many times have you played it live then? Maybe like once or twice?
No, zero.
0. Oh, okay. So this is a studio
0.
recording. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a studio recording. But I wish I played this live at Microfest in the US.
Oh, yes.
Because that piece deserves Microfest.
Yes, absolutely. So do you go to Microfest every year?
No, I've never been in the Microfest. So yes, I would like to go to Microfest, John Schneider's Microfest. But I'm mostly trying to catch the microtonal music symposiums or festivals in Europe.
Well, how are you going to go to the moon?
Oh, I'm going to go to the moon on the rocket called BFR, Big Falcon Rocket. So it's going to take us to the moon. Anyway, I would like to go to the moon so much because the life in the world is so boring, as you know. The politics, the wild capitalism,
Blech.
and the poverty, the everything. Anyway, global warming, climate change. Yes, I would like to go there so much, and also if I am selected, that means microtonality will be spreading more across the globe.
Yeah.
Maybe more than King Gizzard, because I'm going to go there with my microtonal guitar. So I think that's a great opportunity to spread the word. But that means my video, I don't know how to be chosen, but I'm trying to grab the attention of Mr. Yusaku Maezawa.
Yes, yes.
So he might watch the video and say, "Oh, that might be interesting." But if he choose me, I will go definitely. Even though it's gonna be a very risky journey. So in my opinion, 20 or 30% failure possibility.
Yeah, scary. But if it all works and if you get selected, then Microtonal music will be the official music of outer space.
I hope so. Yeah, it would be amazing. Just I imagine myself on BBC, CNN playing microtonal guitar.
Oh my goodness, that'd be great.
Yeah, but it's a dream. I don't think because his intention is, for example, he thought, okay, what if Picasso came with me with the journey and get inspired with this journey? So I think he's looking for a very famous Picasso-like, John Lennon-like musician to be inspired with this journey. So I don't think that he's gonna look for a guitarist. I'm not sure.
I don't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't discount that because, like John Lennon played a guitar. You think they're looking for like an up-and-comer?
Yeah, but mostly popular and singing, it's...
So you think they're looking for more like a songwriter and they might not have to be a composer?
I think so.
That's really too bad. They should pick someone who's dealt with both songwriting and composition in spades. That seems pretty essential to me because, the more experience you have, the more frames of reference you have, and the more you can bring to the table. And you've had experience with all those traditional tunings.
Yeah, I thought, for example, this Estonian great composer, Arvo Pärt,
Oh, of course, yeah.
Pärt. So just imagine he's going on that journey and come back and compose. So, yeah, but I'm sure he's not going to accept. So this is also...
Right.
I might have a little chance because of my courage. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I think you should go. I mean, Arvo Pärt doesn't need it. He's already famous enough. And he already has written stuff about the celestial bodies like 5 times over, so your turn.
I hope so. We will see. I just throw the stone, and I did what I have to. Then, if I'm chosen, I'm very determined to go.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
I think we should... Well, I don't know if I'll actually do this, but if we did like a hashtag like Tolgahan on the moon and try to like get Twitter to go along with it, that'd be pretty cool. But
yes, but the social media is really difficult medium now. You can't predict. For example, in the last month, I checked my statistics on YouTube and it's decreasing drastically. So, you never know what's going on. So it's very difficult medium.
Yeah, it's kind of like a popularity contest, and then people who have good content are trying to like trick the popularity contest into voting for them, but then sometimes good content gets really popular anyway, in the case of your channel. So, things like that.
Yeah, but still it's doing well, but of course it's not like many other YouTubers channels, like they have more than million, more than 500,000. Mine is, we can say, moderate level.
Well, if you get a million views on any video, you're doing something right, I think. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, that was a pure luck. That was a chance.
Yeah.
And yes, I feel lucky about it. And I'm trying to upload one video every 2 or every 3 weeks.
That's good.
So that's what I can do at max.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing considering all your university obligations and your incredible like performance diet and all of the stuff that you're trying to do with the microtonal guitar. The fact that you can manage to post a video that regularly is nothing short of astounding, really.
Oh, thank you.
You're a very busy man.
Yes.
Yeah, but I like to be busy. Like I am a workaholic. Like I can't live. I have to create or do something continuously. That's how I live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
That's good though, because then we can all enjoy all of the things that you come up with. And
thank you.
I think it's really helping the kind of movement that we have going to make more people aware of the idea that alternative tunings are, another way to express yourself musically.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm also following your channels. I am showing, for example, Savage, your videos, because it's on my lectures, both when I go abroad or when I am at the university, because it's a great example of using microtonality in this with the grooves, with these different. Also, Steven, your channel is, I think, getting very rich. Just my recommendation is, it's when it has to be more. How can I say? Okay, you are recording in your room.
Right, it's
mostly.
not well produced, right?
Yeah, try to have for example, a better camera and better location, because really it matters. Like, it's changed the way people are watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody send money to Stephen for a new camera.
Ooh, yeah, crowdfunding. Leftover proceeds go to Tolgahan's moon adventure.
Yeah, but the great thing is, both of your and my channel, I think in a few years, or in 10 or 20 years, I think our channels will be worth more. Like,
Yeah.
people will watch more and see, oh, in the 2010s, in 2015, 19, people are doing these. They started that early doing this, because, in my opinion, microtonality is mostly the future of music. So
Yeah.
what we are trying to do is, I think, all of us, is great. So I want to congratulate all of us.
Yeah, I think we're all doing good things. It's really interesting to speculate about what will happen when microtonality becomes more important. I almost think there will be maybe a greater disparity between songwriters and composers. Like, one group will want to use it more than the other, or something. Or maybe educated musicians will be working with it more if microtonality is somehow seen as something that needs to be in the classroom. Because I know that set theory for a while was the big thing. And so every school had to have it, and then a school that didn't have it was sort of considered like educationally illegitimate, or like not on board with whatever was currently happening. So if we get people to start thinking that way about microtonality, we'll probably have more widespread education, but I don't know if that will cause more people to use microtones in their music. Probably will maybe have more tuning systems that become standard and regular, like maybe 12 and 17 and 19 will sort of like cohabitate the Western ear, maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you both a question?
Yes.
Both of your perspectives. So, in the academic music world, let's say, if people are not learning and teaching about microtonality, what are they learning about at the very high level?
Good question. You want to go first on that one?
Actually, for example, our composition departments at the PhD, we have very big, strong interest in spectral music in Istanbul.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's dealing with microtonality as well. We also, we even had a spectral music conference. I think it might be maybe the world's first in Istanbul several years ago. Tristan Muray came here for this. So anyway, I think they are using microtones in a very limited way, just for their textures, to create some effects. But it's for our academic circles, it's mostly minimalism, spectral music, John Cage influenced styles, some serialism, some atonality a little bit. But it's mostly very diverse. Maybe everything a little bit from each other sometimes. But electronic music is a lot in Istanbul. Electroacoustic, electronic music, and also we have a sonic arts department. We found that recently. So many students interested in sonic arts and electronic music. What about you, Steven? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the things that you said somewhat apply to here. At least with people not learning microtonal music, there's so much that can be done with 12-tone equal temperament that's not commercialized music. It's just like microtonality, where once you've opened the big can of worms, there's no going back to doing it in a commercialized way, at least for the purposes of seeking things out that are new. So I think a lot of composers when they write something, are looking to find new textures and things that are exciting for people who really like care about music on a deep level. So writing for things at conferences. And for some people, this is like minimalism, as Tolgahan mentioned. For some people, this is like a conceptual experiment. I know that at some universities, it's sort of taboo to be very emotionally strong with your music, like say you would be in romantic music or commercialized music, where it's like really clear and it really delivers a strong punch. Sometimes that's frowned upon. It's not really frowned upon at Ball State University, because writing music that's highly structured and highly emotional doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, they can work for the benefit of each other if you're careful. So I think composition just takes on many forms, and then people get interested in learning about those different forms based on whoever they are as a composer or based on what their school is doing. And Ball State was a really good school for encouraging one's own sense of composition. There was no path that I was pressured to take, so I found out about microtonality, I incorporated that into my own thinking, and I figured out what I liked in music, which is interesting melody and interesting textures. And I think the latter thing is shared by a lot of other composers. Most electronic composers at Ball State are also learning a lot about fixed media. So generally, in higher level composition classes, they would be learning about how to use electronics to create very interesting gestures that aren't constrained by meter or melodic/harmonic content. So basically, they're kind of avoiding pitch and meter for the sake of extreme novelty. It's really like sound design in a way. You try and find sounds that are alike with each other and whose gestures are exciting in combination with each other. And maybe you're dealing with the space of the concert hall as well if you're hearing such music being played on speakers. So I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with at the really high levels of electronic music. Spectralism also feeds into that. Usually microtonal music is not exactly done in fixed media, although it can be. So it all depends on who you are, but I think a lot of composers are interested in avoiding pitch and meter. And of course, if you're a high-level composer, you're also writing for ensembles that feature actual instruments that people play, and often you're using a lot of extended techniques. So extended techniques are ways to play an instrument that are unconventional or that bring new sounds out of it. I don't like to do those very much because I don't think they add very much to the piece. Sometimes they can sound a little bit cliche, especially now since like everyone sort of does the same ones. But composers learn about that, and they learn about how to write idiomatically for instruments so that they have a better chance of being accepted to competitions, things like that. So microtonality can be detrimental to that. If you're wanting to write for a certain group and you really want them to accept you, it's like you sort of you don't have the upper hand as a composer. You're just hoping that they'll kind of like see you and decide to do something fun, and you might not even necessarily be paying them. They might be having a call for scores or something to that effect. So microtonality usually, I think, has to be given to people who are really proficient or have expressed an interest or something like that. So that would be my take on it. And of course, there's a billion other things to say, but that's most of what I've experienced at like conferences and at Ball State and other nearby schools, things like that. And atonality and tonality sort of freely mix together as constructs, I think. I haven't actually seen too many pieces where tonality is mixed with textures that don't have determinate pitch. I would really like to see more of that at conferences, but I almost never see it, unfortunately. But yeah, I think serialism is kind of old hat. It's actually really strong at some schools, but not at any of the schools I frequent.
Cool, yeah, thanks for that, guys. It's just really interesting for me to get that kind of that perspective on things. Thanks for that, guys. Thanks for that, guys. Guys.
Well, Tolgahan, thanks so much for being on the podcast. We really enjoyed having you talk about microtonal guitars, and we're going to send you to the moon. Dang it. Well,
Yeah, it was great to meet you because, we know each other for a long time
right.
through our videos, but it's great to see you in person.
Yeah.
It's like we met in Istanbul in my room and having a chat.
Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely.
And also, I would like to thank you for starting this podcast. I think it's a very small but very big step for microtonal music, because in the last 2 years, I started to be a podcast person because every morning I walk with podcasts. And also when I drive, unfortunately in Istanbul, there's a huge traffic jam. So, I can listen to for an hour podcasts. I don't listen to so much music. I prefer podcasts. And in the last months, I was struggling to find what I'm going to listen to. Okay, I'm a fan of some BBC4, BBC podcasts like Grown Up Land, Parentland, this type of things.
Yeah.
Because I'm lacking some high quality music platforms. I'm following some classical guitar podcasts. But when you send me this link, it's like I found a treasure. So, I listen to all of them and I listen to some of them twice. So it's amazing that you started this series, and I hope you will continue this forever.
We're working on it.
Forever with anyone. So because, there are maybe hundreds of names that you can contact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many people, so many.
Yeah, Microtonal, okay, it's a closed circle, but it's hundreds still. When you come to a Microtonal Music Festival, you'll see many people there. So everyone can contribute. And I hope you will. Are you putting this monthly? Uploading
Yes.
monthly?
We post every month on the 12th because we hate 12. That's the joke. And and then we also sometimes have a surprise episode or 2 surprise episodes that we upload near the end of the month.
I see, but I wish it was weekly.
Yes.
I wish.
That would be great, but it would take so long to edit everything.
Yeah, I know. Or maybe at least in 2 weeks. Because,
Yeah.
when you are used to listening to podcasts, okay, when you finish the one program, you say, oh, the next one is in 1 month. Okay,
Yeah.
I switch back to my old podcast. So it's, because everyone is having them daily. Anyway, but it's great that you started this. And I would like to thank you for this great entrepreneurship for the Microtonal guitar. And it was great chatting you.
You're welcome, and thank you for being on. Tolgahan has the microtonal guitar competition. He's trying to get to the moon, and you can also... Oh, darn. What's that book you had with Fernando Perez?
Yes, a microtonal guitar for standard guitar with added frets.
Yes, it's a microtonal guitar method book, so be sure to buy that and try and get extra frets by talking with Tolgahan, because that's something that you might want for your guitar to practice maqam scales on a 12-tone guitar or on a fretless guitar. So, all right.
Okay, hope to see you somewhere around the world.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.